I'm Kasra Fard, and this is Project Scope Management. The Project Management Body of Knowledge, a guide to PMBOK or PMBOK guide, defines projects as a temporary endeavor that is undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The output of a project will satisfy the requirements of one or multiple stakeholders. These stakeholders will include the business client, the person who is going to actually use this product, and or the business sponsor, the person who provides the source of funding for the project. These two entities are sometimes the same and sometimes different. Despite the differences, I'll be using the terms project sponsor and business client interchangeably in this discussion. Before starting the project, using the business case as a tool, project managers and or sponsors articulate the goals that the organization needs to achieve, the reasons for the goals, the solutions or options available to achieve the goals, a detailed analysis of the options and a recommended solution to achieve the identified goals, the human and non-human as well as financial resources, including the sources of funding, and finally, what will happen if the recommended option cannot be approved. In order to analyze available options and recommend a solution, project managers and sponsors leverage techniques such as net present value, NPV, payback period, and internal rate of return, or IRR, among others. Once the recommended option in the business case is approved by senior executives at the organization, a project will be initiated based on the recommended solution. The project will use available resources and will be structured to achieve identified goals. I'll be covering all these tools in detail in future. After a business case is approved, the PM and the sponsor will want to focus on some of these points in order to develop the charter. These 6 points are going to be categorized into 3 main topics. The project scope are the goals and the reason why the goals are being targeted. A preliminary risk management, which talks about what are the hurdles along the way before achieving the end result and goals of the project, as well as what other things can be done if the actual project cannot be pursued. What is the plan B? What is the contingency plan? As well as the project approach, which includes the solutions or solution that is going to be undertaken, the budget, the schedule, and the resources. These 3 are the building blocks of the project charter and the statement of work, or SOW. SOW is sometimes pronounced SOW as well. These will be developed between the project requester, the business sponsor, the business client, as well as the project delivery manager, which in many cases is the project manager. While there is no shortage of projects that start without a project charter or SOW, the lack of these documents will be the main reason for a project to fail. Unfortunately, one prevalent notion is that the development of the charter will only add to the overhead of the project. Now, there are main values to having a project charter. One of them is the fact that the charter is the tool to protect the business clients. The charter acts as a contract between the business client and the delivery agent, the PM, and the other responsible parties. The charter solidifies the role of the PM as the sole accountable person for the success of the project. The charter will also articulate what is required and will help the business client with determining whether the scope has been delivered and the variance between what has been delivered and the original request that was made by the project sponsor or the business client. The second value is that the project charter protects the project manager. The project conditions will invariably change throughout the life of the project. Sources of funding may become unavailable. New and high priority activities may take valuable resources away from our project. And without a written contract, the project resources may fall apart, leaving the PM still accountable to deliver the scope without enough resources. As the PM is accountable for the success of the project, the PM will need to deliver the scope under all conditions. Of course, unless through appropriate channels the scope is changed or the project is cancelled. Without the charter, the project elements will remain in a state of flux. The project itself will turn into a never-ending endeavor, and in effect, the project will be doomed to fail even before it starts. Now, what are the things that have been and should be included in a project charter? The content of the charter can be summarized into 3 main sections. First, the records management section. This section contains the date, version number, document status, whether the document is draft or final, revision history, and an identifier. Some organizations require draft versions of various business records, including project charters, to be maintained, while some other organizations will require only the final version of the charter to be maintained. It is important to have a repository, a place to maintain all of the project-related artifacts throughout the life of the project. During the life of a project or after the project is closed, the project may be subject to an audit, and the artifacts in that case will have to be provided. Body of the charter. This section covers the project characteristics, the objectives, purpose of the project, the scope, budget, schedule, resources, quality level, main risks, main stakeholders, and the roles and responsibilities, major requirements, as well as major time-bound events. These major time-bound events are called milestones. This section, the body of the charter, then grows to cover a high-level project plan, including cost management plan, quality plan, risk plan, communications plan, and etc. PMBOK Guide, the 6th edition, outlines the sections required in a project charter on page 155, and also points out that the charter will need to include success criteria and approval requirements. So the charter will have to define what success means to the stakeholders and how the PM and the rest of the stakeholders can determine whether or not the project has been successful. And also the closing criteria, the criteria and a checklist that can be used to determine the project has actually delivered all the requirements and the project can be closed. Finally, there is an approval section. This section will list the name of the major stakeholders, their approvals, and if applicable, conditions of their approvals. For further readings, you can head over to management-business.blogspot.com where you can see the script for this topic, and also you can see cost and value management in projects, an introduction to project management 6th edition, and a guide to project management body of knowledge, PMBOK Guide 6th edition, which have been used as sources for this tip.